Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a chilly Higher Moment Mastermind on this mid-December day. Welcome, welcome. My name is Shira Lotzar. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Purposeful Hire. I am a career coach and an association recruiter, and I help folks with compelling resumes and LinkedIn profiles and networking and all kinds of job search tips. And I'm also the co-founder and volunteer at BoomerWorks. We are a charitable organization that helps professionals age 50 plus to re-career into self-employment. Everything is free that we offer, so feel free to check out our website. Our guest experts, Julien Bois, executive recruiter with accounting and finance. Corliss Jackson, who is an expert in all things federal government. KiKi L'Italien, who is the mistress of all things video and social media. Vern Schellenger, master networker, relationship builder, and Weech, who just is the queen of government contracting. So we have a great expert team today. We're happy to help you. So standard format for today's session, please remain muted. We will start out with our traditional 10-minute breakout session. And in that group, as per usual, please share both your group's top question and any power tips, power lessons that you would like to share with each other. And remember to wait until you get back into the main room to post your questions, because otherwise we won't be able to see it if you post it in your regular chat room. We're going to then have an open Q&A group discussion at 10 o'clock. Around that, right around there, we're going to do a 15-minute speed networking breakout session. Please try to stick around for that if you can. So many people have found incredible connections for their search during that time. Remember to keep in touch with our Power Networking spreadsheet. I will be putting that in the chat room shortly, as well as the recording, the link for the recording of our session today. Okay, so we are of course going to start with our breakout room. So give me just a minute while I set that up for you guys. All right, so remember to hit the blue join button and you will be going into your breakout rooms for 10 minutes.
I ended up in the same room with Julien, so I thought, okay, well, okay. I didn't want to double up on anyone, although I guess it wouldn't have hurt anything, but
no, not at all. Not at all. Naveen, you are welcome to join a group if you, I'm not sure if you saw the button. You don't have to, but just making sure that you got the note. And for those who are watching this online, please feel free to fast forward for 10 minutes until we get back into the room. You're looking pretty in blue, KiKi.
Thank you. Sometimes these Fridays, it's hard to get sort of pulled together in time to like do it. I know it doesn't seem like it because it's not actually that early, but it's by Friday. I'm just so worn out from the week. Do you feel like that too sometimes?
I totally get that. And by Friday night, I'm like, I want to go to sleep early.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's like anyway, so it just took me a while because I was like running upstairs and trying to wrangle everybody together and stuff and what we're doing. And anyway, but I got here. I made it.
Cool. All right, I've got one person I got to do the breakout room for. Hey, Matt, we just started breakout rooms, and so I'm going to assign you to one. All right, okay. So go ahead and hit your blue join button.
So I'm going to take my video down for a second and go make some tea really fast outside the door.
Go for it.
All right.
Hey, Scott, people are just coming back from the breakout rooms in the next minute, so I'll just keep you here in the main room for now.
Okay, thank you. Sorry I'm late.
No worries. Okay, hopefully that was a good session for you. So before we get going, I'm going to put in the chat room the 2 links, as I promised. The Power Networking spreadsheet, for those of you who are new, that's a spreadsheet, a Google Docs that we created where you guys can share your contact information with each other to keep in touch. And then a link for the post-session recording is there as well. All right, so let's get going. First of all, who would like to share a power tip, something that is has been a revelation for you, or has worked for you in your job search that you'd like to pass along to anyone? Maybe you talked about it in your breakout room. Let's just start with that before we go into the Q&A. Who's got a tip? A resource, a link? Well, Vern is one of our experts. Vern, you actually put something in the chat box here. I'm not sure if everybody saw it. Do you want to tell us what that's about?
Yeah, there's what I put in the chat box was a website that is viacharacter.org. And if you go to that website, there's a free character strength assessment. So whenever you're in the job search, you're thinking about who am I, what am I all about? You're going to get the, tell me a little bit about yourself. So this is a quick assessment. It'll tell you your character strengths in kind of rank order. And there may be something in that assessment that you can really identify with or think about in terms of the work you do or your values. And it might be something that could be useful to you, in answering the tell me a little bit about yourself, or even potentially as part of an interview, answering an interview question. So it's a quick and easy assessment. So I recommend you do it.
Terrific.
What's it called again?
It's called Character Strength Assessment. And again, I put the website in the chat. Just go to that website and you'll see a link to the free assessment.
Can you put it, excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt again. Can you put the link in again? Unfortunately, I was late, so I missed the link.
I'll put it in the chat again right now. So,
Yeah, it didn't come up for me.
okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a tip they'd like to share? So actually, I wanted to also put, I'm putting a couple things in the chat box. One, I just put last week's resource list that Joe Weech had shared. It's a bunch of links to different job search tips, but I'm putting something else right now. Somebody kindly sent to me yesterday a deck from another career coach who is giving advice in this deck on how to find the recruiters who specialize in your field, how to find them on LinkedIn. It's something that I can certainly go and do a little clinic about, but I thought this person did a very, very nice job of kind of spelling it out, like, click here, click there, this search term, here's how you can write to the recruiter if you want to reach out. So I thought it was very, very well done, and it's here in the chat box right now. And by the way, I'm going to be creating in the future, a page on my website with actually all of these different links. Okay, so we're going to have one repository for all of this going forward. So now that everybody's been sharing links and documents, I'm just going to collect it all and we can have it in one spot. So if you have anything you'd like to share with me offline, feel free to do that. All right.
Sheila, if you don't mind, it seemed like the chat if it is not coming to the chat, I'm not sure if you posted it to everyone or because I don't see it.
Okay, so it says it's to everyone. I put
It's
in two
there.
different
It's there.
documents.
It's there.
Yeah, there's two different documents there. One is called links to job search tips and another is called LinkedIn recruiter outreach. They're files.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't go through for me either.
Yeah, so I'm not sure.
Actually,
what
the
they
last
did.
one is still loading. The one that Shira just uploaded, it's still loading. So give it a moment.
Okay. All right. 'Cause
By
I'm
the end,
not-
if by the end it's not there,
I
let me
see.
know and I'll repost.
I see. One's a Word document,
Oh,
one's a
now
PDF.
it's loading. Yeah.
Okay.
If anybody's on a Chromebook or iPad or something, it probably won't come through to you. It didn't come through to me. So
Oh.
Kelly, volunteer, Kelly, my favorite guy. Can you email it to me, please?
All right, you know what
Yeah,
I'm gonna do? I'm gonna extra make sure that after this call, I create that page for everyone and put all the links on my website.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Scott,
so,
it's gonna cost you a gift card.
Okay.
so moving along, let's go ahead and start with our Q&A. KiKi, I think I saw there was 1 or 2 questions here. Do you wanna start us off and then everyone can sort of jump in with cute questions?
Yes. So the first question that we have comes from Pat. What is your opinion on putting dates on resumes as far as ageism goes?
Yep, we get this question a lot. And so first of all, you do need to put, generally you need to put chronological dates. Employers definitely need to see that. However, the question more is how far back do you go? That's the underline here question. And so every recruiter has a little bit of a different, and every coach has a different opinion on this. Mine is generally about 20 years. Some people say 10, some people say 15. I say 20, and here's why. Because anything less than that, and 15 kind of is borderline. For if you are a seasoned professional and you are looking for a leadership role, you can almost seem almost underqualified, right, in terms of your level of skills if you're going with around 10. To me, 20 is a good solid sort of round way of looking at it. Now, if you have experience, if you have more than 20 years of experience, and that particular experience is very germane to your career history. So for example, maybe you worked at a very unique company that you really want employers to know about, or you started out your career in a particular area that is, again, very important for employers to know about. What you can do is have a section at the bottom of your resume called prior experience. And under prior experience, you would simply list the company, the title, no dates. So it shows you have more than the 20 years, but it doesn't exactly say how many years. And it allows people to see your prior experience in a holistic way. But that's my opinion. Julien or any of the other experts, anyone want to chime in on that with your opinion?
I fully agree with you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree also. The one other thing that with some clients, anyone who has military experience, even if it was way back when, I tell them, boy, that's something that should be on your resume. The fact that you've had military experience, and that's just such a great training and learning experience for anyone to go through.
May I comment a second?
Yes, Janet, please.
Hey, and and I agree with everything you said, and maybe somehow put it into the profile right on top with X amount of years, or something you did in the military, et cetera, if you think it's going to be relatable and important. So
Yeah.
it doesn't get buried.
Yeah, and emphasis on what Janet just said. If you think it's going to be relatable and important, right? If it's related to your brand, the kind of role that you're looking for, then yeah, certainly highlight that. In fact, what you could actually do at the top is you could say, if like, so, you know, most people have professional experience. Well, right above that, you could have a little section that says military experience, just like literally highlight it as a section and put that in there. Again, if you feel it's relevant to the job that you're looking for. Good, thanks guys. All right, any other questions in the chat or?
We have another question. So how do you get hired as a contractor for the federal government? Is there a better way to go about trying to get hired by them?
Joe, I'm going to toss this one over to you. My government queen.
So that will depend on what your expertise is and your background. Once you identify, okay, like whether or not it's accounting or software engineering or whatever is your industry, that you are a part of, then you're going to want to take a look and see what companies are actually doing work for the federal government. It's really pretty easy to find, all the big dogs are just out there, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Deloitte. CACI, Leidos, all those different major companies, but you can also see sometimes who's partnered with those companies, and those would be subs to those primes, in which case that would be the way to identify. Also, if there are people that you are connected to that work for one of the big dogs, they'll know what companies are sub to them. So they can also give you a hint on what companies are in that arena. But it's a pretty fairly simple search to do in terms of, just if you're Googling, you can just put, and in fact, just even look at sometimes, like if you were to just put in like Lockheed Martin, some of the subs actually put that they are partnered with Lockheed Martin. So it won't come up on pages 1, 2, and 5, but if you do a little bit more digging, you should find your way there. But honestly, it would be good to connect with somebody in your industry that is already working in federal contracting, because then they would be able to give you, the inside skinny, because most of us are all connected. I'm in an HR group in the Intel community for the Maryland customer, and there's 56 of us in that group, and we all know who each other is, and we all know who, who all is hiring. So it would just be good to get connected with a group like that.
It's definitely a tribe, for sure. Great, thanks, Joe. All right, KiKi, next question.
All right. So this actually ties into a conversation that the recruiters were having before we went live today. And it's, have you observed an uptick in recruiting activity? And this question has to do with the successful COVID vaccine trials. So there's been a lot out there as far as, how does COVID and the pandemic impact getting hired? And so what's the answer to that? Have you seen an uptick in recruiting lately?
I think it depends on who you talk to. That happens not to be my particular area. And I'm not quite sure if anyone on any of our experts on this call specifically dive into that. And I'm going to toss this to Julien in a second, but one would and I'll say this anecdotally, when I've talked to my career coaching clients, I have, can you not hear me? Did I blink out?
It's freezing up.
Yeah, it's freezing up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Just a little bit.
Oh,
It's freezing up here and there, a little spotty.
Okay, Julien, can
Take
you
your
hear
video
me?
off, Shira?
Yep, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll just keep talking for a second, then I'll pass over to Julien. So anecdotally, when I've talked to my career coaching clients who are in the health space of any sort, they are finding, of course, that there's more uptick, companies who are, innovating new products, and there's been a lot of movement there. But again, that's in the health sector, understandably, not my sector, but I've heard of it. Julien, have you seen any uptick in what you do?
Yeah. So I will try to be a little bit more specific as far as industries, but so just in Bradley, we have 4 divisions. One is executive recruiting solutions, executive placement solutions. The other one is temporary staffing solutions. The third one is contingent workforce solutions. And that means working with very large Fortune 500 companies and providing them with contractors, not just in accounting and finance, but everything that you can think of, from call centers to financial engineers. And then the fourth one is financial systems optimization, where we do optimizations of systems. All four of them, especially Q3 and Q4, are above last year.
Oh, wow.
But the one that's really making stride right now, which makes sense in a recovery, is our contingent workforce and our temporary solutions. So companies are starting to hire even more, but at first they start, in our industry, when we see a recovery coming, we see first the temporary and contracting community coming up, and then the direct hire explodes, if that's the right word. So in terms of planning for next year, I just had a board of directors planning meeting, and what we've decided is, what we are predicting is that this ramp up in consulting is going to last at least through mid-2021. And a further increase in executive placements by the end of Q1 2021. All sectors, the only sectors that we do not play in is healthcare and government.
Thank you, Julien. Very helpful.
Something related to that was actually the conversation that we had before had to do with this time of year too, and how there's a common myth. And I think Joe was talking about, the myth that toward the end of the year, toward the holidays, that people just stop looking for people, that the hiring just sort of freezes up. Would any of the recruiters like to speak to that myth?
Yeah, the recruiting happens all year long, every day. In fact, I just picked up a search 2 days ago and they want to hire the person by mid-January. So if anything, sometimes it picks up a little more around this time of year because they want like a January start date. So yeah, I would not actually, don't think about pulling back or, on your job search. Keep full force because people are recruiting. Anyone else of the experts want to comment on that?
Just the recruiter groups that I'm in, everything's exploding. People are like, I just got this rec. I just got this rec. It's like, if this has been all week, people are just saying, do you know of, and people all trying to help each other, find some of these roles. So I would say that, the flow keeps happening. So I would say, let's not grow weary in doing good, but keep on keeping on, keep hope alive.
Thanks, Joe.
Shira, I would say the same thing for the federal government, that even though we're in a continuing resolution and there's budget hasn't been passed, the HR folks are still doing their work of recruiting, getting people lined up. And as soon as the budget gets passed, which they just extended hopefully a little bit in the next week or so, but once the budget gets passed, they'll start making calls almost immediately. Like our clients start getting calls the next day saying, you want to interview, we want to interview you, we want to make you an offer. So things are moving. It's like the duck on the water, where little web feet are going fast, but on the top it looks kind of slow, but then things pick up really quickly once.
Corliss, while we have you, I know for a fact that there are at least 2 people on this call, and there are probably more, who have applied to be part of the Biden administration. And we know that there's been a huge uptick right in the last few weeks. I've done my best to help these folks, navigate, but of course I'm not a federal government expert. And so Corliss, since you are, can you give us any insight in terms of, I know folks have already been applying, but what can they do here to get their foot in the door?
So are you talking specifically with the Biden transition?
Correct. Specifically, right. When they put out their notice, whatever it was a few weeks ago, and they got like 25,000 applications in the first week, that specifically.
That would be a networking thing. It's all in who you know for that particular niche. It's really, really, really specialized. But the transition teams are reaching out to agencies, they're reaching out to people, they're staffing up. One of the things, if you can do it, is to offer your services as a volunteer, although you still have to go through the background investigation piece. Sometimes that's a way to get your foot in the door, but there's really no magic to it. It is, in this particular case, it's more about networking.
So I had recommended to at least one of these people that on LinkedIn to try to find the internal champions that we normally talk about in the private sector, is in LinkedIn to sort of type in, Biden transition team or Biden-Harris transition team or that kind of thing, to see if those folks who are on the transition team, where their LinkedIn profile is going to show up. Any other suggestions around that?
I don't.
All right. Well, we're all yeah. So do what you can to network if that's of interest to you. Vern?
Yeah, well, I want to keep Corliss on the podium here because Julie had a question about federal jobs, and someone telling her, and Julie, if I get this wrong, please chime in, that you need to apply to like at least 5 federal jobs a day, and you need to apply to at least 200 jobs before you'll get a job in the federal government. Corliss is what's the response to that?
There's no short answer, but the more you apply, the better, which is different than I think the corporate sector. So it's really, you have a quality package and then you apply to as many jobs as you can, and you do it, you don't do it on a one-on-one basis. You do it for everything that you feel you're qualified for. And it's about a 10% return in terms of what you'll get referred to, and then another 10% in terms of what you get interviewed for. There are specialized avenues you can pursue. So if you're, a veteran, or if you're a person with a disability, or you're an individual who has some kind of, there's another avenue that you can pursue other than the regular avenue for federal positions. That'll give you a little bit of a leg up. But the bottom line is there might be 10 different ways to get to the grocery store, and you want to pursue each of those lanes, and you want to do them all collectively, if that makes sense. So about a 10% return burn.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, how do you tailor your resume for if you have to apply for 5 jobs a day? How, I mean, or do you just apply with the same resume or across those opportunities?
Yeah, so our philosophy at Federal Job Results is that you build one very comprehensive, what I call a kitchen sink resume, with all the bells and whistles and all your skills on there. And then as you apply to certain positions, you tailor it for positions based on the requirements of the job. And if you do it that way, rather than create a new resume every time you apply, it's going to significantly cut down on the amount of time that it takes you to prepare that actual application. So it should be, something where you have, what I believe is that the HR folks in the federal government, they're hiring one person to do multiple roles most times. So they might have 2 or 3 vacancies and they hire one person. So it's good for them to have a plethora of your skills in front of them. And it's not good for you to just have a siloed resume. So the more you can put in there, the better, but you do want to have the keywords from the vacancy announcement appear in the resume. It doesn't work the same way as the ATS, the applicant tracking systems in the corporate sector. The HR folks in the federal government use eyeballs to review your resume and look for keywords. So you want to have those in there, but it doesn't work the same as the corporate sector.
What does though work the same as the corporate sector is Corliss's concept of the kitchen sink that is tailorable. Oh yes, absolutely. Best practice ever, right? Create the kitchen sink resume, have all of your accomplishments. And I always recommend that when you have your accomplishments in your private sector resume, label them. Label the accomplishments with bolded keywords. So you have an accomplishment story, and then just to the left of it, the competency says whatever it is, financial analysis or project management or board relations or whatever your competency is, so that the eyeballs, the private sector eyeballs, right, can scan down. Even if it's an ATS, the ITS might do that as well, but the keywords need to be in there. And then what happens is if you have your kitchen sink resume, it's very easy to then customize, not only mix and match and take things out, yes, but also to relabel the accomplishments with the appropriate keyword. Because sometimes you don't even have to change the accomplishment story. You can just pull out a different label, a different competency from the story.
So we have another question, and it has to do about how long can the resume be for the federal government? How many pages?
So our goal is 5 pages, and it can be shorter, it can be longer. I wouldn't go longer than 8 pages, but that 5 pages is enough substance, because what the HR folks do is they match your information with the information they require for the job. And they basically go through a checklist. And the more information that you have on your resume that they're requiring for the job, the better match there is, and the more likely you are to move forward. So the more information that you can build into your resume, the better. But it's not just a multiplier of your corporate resume. It's more in-depth wording regarding how you performed your work and the skills that you bring to the table. It's not just a list of accomplishments. So it's a little bit of a different flavor when you're building the federal resume. And it really doesn't work well to have a corporate sector resume apply to a federal government job, because they're looking for apples, you gave them oranges, and they'll send you back an email saying you're not qualified. And people get frustrated, and it's normally that you're not qualified, it's that you didn't give them what they needed to see in your resume in order for them to move you forward. So it's a very important distinction in terms of the content of your federal resume.
I like to say that the federal government resume is, they want to know every time you tied your shoelaces. Pretty much. Truly.
So Corliss, in that vein, how would somebody that has never been involved with the federal government, or at least how would you draw from somebody experienced from the private sector to write a resume for the federal government? Because for those that have been thinking private sector, they don't have the minutiae that you will need for a federal resume. But how would you advise them to look for that? If they're considering
anybody who's had any kind of job or internship has some kind of transferable skills. even if it was an unpaid position. And the federal government they don't distinguish between paid or unpaid. Training counts. Everything that you bring to the table counts, and you really need to use what we call transferable skills. And I'm sure that in your ventures, you've heard of that term before. And I'll give you a real quick example. We had a jewelry store manager who wanted a job in the federal government, and we didn't have any jewelry store manager vacancies that we saw. But if you think about what she did in her work, she managed people, money, security, contracts, vendors, customer service. So she had a plethora of skills that she brings to the table, but they're not necessarily skills that you would only use in a jewelry store. She had skills that you would use in a federal government environment. So we built the resume around the skills that she brings to the table, and she's now working in one of the intelligence agencies. So everybody has transferable skills. Some of us have to dig deeper to figure out what they are and how they apply to our next opportunity. But we all have them. And a lot of times you're going to have to dig deep and figure out exactly what they are. And more importantly, how do I articulate these on a resume to show that I am adding value to the target organization?
And Corliss, someone just asked, is there somewhere we can go to see a good example of what a federal government resume looks like? Do you have that on your website?
I don't, but if you want to email us, we can share that information with you.
And by the way, I'm doing this whole parallel thing where, all of those transferable skills that Corliss mentioned don't necessarily translate in a private sector resume. Not that you can't, but you have to do it in a very tailored way, because in the private sector, employers are generally looking to minimize their risk, and they typically do that by saying, okay, are you either a lateral, right? Have you actually done this particular job? Do you come from this tribe, right? The same sector. So they're trying to more look for an apples to apples match. They're not kind of going as deep. Whole other conversation, but I just wanted to share it's not exactly the same way as what it is with the government. And also with page length of resumes, someone asked right about the federal government. I'm going to address two more here. Private sector, but also government contracting, which Joe, I'd love for you to talk about. So in the private sector, there used to be this concept of, oh, it should only be 1 to 2 pages max. Well, yes, that was the case, especially when way back before online applications, where people actually got hard copies faxed or mailed, and recruiters did not want to have to go through, and you didn't want the recruiter to have to go through more than 2 pages. Now with online scanning, I personally have no problem with the 3-pager, meaning don't try to shrink all of your information into 2 pages, right? Like 9-point font. If I believe that if you need to go into a 3rd page and it's quality, fine, especially if that last page is, education, certifications, publications, anything like that. If you can try to get the core on the first 2 and then have the extraneous on the 3rd, I have no problem with that. Most recruiters don't try not to get into 4 pages, right? But try to say it in 3. Government contracting, my understanding has always been that they go a little longer, because often they're submitting those resumes to the federal government and have more of an appetite for a little bit longer. Joe, can you confirm that?
Actually, if their resume is getting submitted, we have to rewrite them. Every single contractor has to rewrite them, and they have to be put in a specific format.
Okay.
So 3 pages is fine if you are like mid-level or less. Once you start getting to be senior and principal level, the degree of detail has to be there. So if a job description that you're applying to has certain things, they're going to want to see where in each of your previous roles you perform those duties. So you need to actually put those in there. So I would say that some of the, especially principal and senior software engineers, 7 to 10 pages has not been unusual. Do we really want to deal with those resumes? No. But we do really want to have the information that's in the job description highlighted in every single job, so that if it says you have to have 5+ years doing XYZ, make sure that in your resume, which has month and year, for each of your roles, document that so that we can do a quick tally in our brains. Okay, yeah, that person does have, okay, that person has about 7 years doing this key role, responsibility, this. So that would probably be the best way to format that.
And I just wanted one other thing. I think it was Jean who asked earlier when we were talking about the LinkedIn and resume, does the LinkedIn and the resume have to match? Well, yes, however, Okay, so yes, it has to be accurate. There has to be certainly the same chronology, the exact same titles, all the skeleton pieces, absolutely me. In fact, so much so, please go back to your LinkedIn and make sure there are no typos. It is so easy when you can click on the wrong year. I mean, it's very inadvertent, very innocent, but I have seen people get screened out because of one inaccuracy based on a resume and a LinkedIn. That said, in terms of the content, right, what's in the job description section, there are a couple ways you can do that. If you want to be sort of seamless about it and easy, what you could do is underneath each of your jobs, just put kind of that opening paragraph around what your job responsibilities are. I don't think that's as ideal. I'd like to see actual bullets, but then again, how do you take a kitchen sink resume and translate that into LinkedIn? You don't have as much room as maybe what you'll need. What I recommend is you take the core accomplishments, the ones that you know are generally going to be transferred to every single job. Take those from your resume and put those into your job descriptions on LinkedIn. So at least there's that continuity, but no matter what, make sure the skeleton is absolutely perfect. Okay, we are actually at time here, but KiKi, is there any one last burning question that you think we should be addressing?
There was one question that, I don't know how quickly we can address it, but any suggestions on temp to hire? Is this a good way to go? Thoughts on that?
Julien, you are the only one here that has anything to do with that world. So do you want to comment or maybe ask a follow-on question as to what the person's referencing?
Yeah, so I will link that to what I said earlier. Because we're seeing more contracting opportunity and temp opportunity, this is the time to really, where we see the percentage of temporary or contractors converting to full-time, this is going to increase. So if you're considering temp to hire or contract to hire, now's the time to do it, because it's going to accelerate at least when we look at the numbers, the percentage of conversions, that's the in-house word that we use, conversions percentages are increasing.
Shira, let me chime in there. I would, if there's a temp to hire opportunity that you think is right for you, I would very much encourage you to do that, because when you're sending your resume and you're interviewing, they hear all of what you say and they try to, hopefully they believe what you say. When you're in a temporary role, you're actually demonstrating your skills. You're showing your teamwork abilities. You're showing your ability to communicate, to meet deadlines. So they're actually seeing your skills in action, which is going to give you a lot more credibility within terms of, wow, this person's in a temporary role. Boy, if we have an opening, we'd like to bring them on, in a permanent role.
Great, thank you. And by the way, there was one pre-question on the questionnaire prior to today, and it's a very easy question, actually, I think, for us to answer. And it says, what's the best way to address that you've been furloughed and that your position is being eliminated? Easiest answer possible, say it just like that. Employers understand when there's furloughs, they especially understand when a position is eliminated, not your fault, especially now with this economy. Literally say it just like that. And I see Joe nodding your head. Okay, so with that, before we break into the breakout rooms, first of all, I did want to give you a small piece of encouragement here. I know we all talk about discrimination and all of that. Well, I have a client right now who's asked me to do a search, and I got to tell you, this completely warmed my heart. The client says to me, she said, Shira, and I didn't even bring this up, she did. She said, Shira, I just want to let you know that we are so sensitive to what's happening because of COVID, but I want you to know we are going to be giving priority consideration to unemployed candidates. I just was like,
wow.
Literally, actually, there's a full statement that we're going to have about that at the end of the search announcement. So I want you to know there are people out there that are very sensitive to this situation and are actually going after folks who are in transition. So good. That's just very good, encouraging news.
Sorry, Shira, I got a fire to put out. I need to leave.
Okay, Julien, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So with that, let me just go ahead and share with you guys just our contact information. Feel free to take a screenshot of this if you need us. All right. Also want to share with you some other job search groups in the area. Again, please feel free to take a screenshot. I did want to call attention to the fact that on this coming Tuesday, the 15th at 10:15 Eastern, I'm going to be giving a 45-minute LinkedIn training to the JCA. They have a career expo, which you guys may want to join. It's a whole day free event. I put the link there, virtualexpos.accessjca.org. Please screenshot that. A little slightly confusing on that page. So it says there's a Fairfax and a Montgomery County. There's a little button down there that just says where to register. Then you're going to see which one it is. So feel free to join us for that. Also, I had mentioned last week that I'm going to be thinking about doing kind of a LinkedIn clinic, okay, for you guys. What I'd like to do is start out with this so next Friday, 1 week from today, right after the speed networking, so around 10:15 till 10:45, just a half an hour, doing a clinic. I'll probably start out with a little bit of training, but I think what I'd really like to do is make this more of an open Q&A, kind of like this, but for LinkedIn specifically. So if you're interested in that, stick around from 10:15 to 10:45 next Friday. Bring your LinkedIn questions specifically, and I will do my very best to help you address them. Okay, and then we can see from that point on how often we want to do it. Always like to end with an inspirational quote from the Bible: hope in the Lord, for with the Lord there is unfailing love, his redemption overflows, and that is from Psalms. Okay.
Amen. Thank you.
Absolutely. Always, always, always. We got to get encouragement from the Lord. So speed networking, here we go. So you're going to have 15 minutes to introduce yourself to your colleagues and do some exchange here. So make sure that you share with your colleagues your tribe and your lane. For those who've never heard me talk about that, I consider your tribe your industry, mission, or sector. Your lane is your profession or your occupation. Not everybody has a tribe, but everybody has a lane. If you got both, please share that. Share what a great lead is for you, any leads that you have for each other. And remember again to use our Power Networking spreadsheet to stay in touch. So with that, let's go ahead and give you guys your rooms again. All right, and give me one moment. All right. And all right, have at it. We'll see you guys in 15 minutes. Right, everyone's here, everyone's back. Hopefully that was a good session for you. All right, so just to kind of wrap things up, anyone like to share any aha moments, questions, tips, things that you got from your session that other people might find of value? What you guys talk about? John,
I will share. Okay,
Janet, yeah.
I had a great, my group is great, and they are very talented. And I think this program and the skills that you have, Corliss in particular, with nonprofits and federal, will be really, really a great resource from them. But yeah, great opportunity to connect with people who can support them in finding these new opportunities. And it's just tweaking what they're doing already. But lots of great talent.
That's our goal. Thanks, Janet.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else want to share a thought, an idea?
I think Janet said something that struck me a little bit, because she said that people get hired for their likability, their motivation, and their qualification. Now, for those of us in the introvert spectrum, you know, we are not very expansive. It doesn't mean that we are not likable. So how do we demonstrate our likability or our motivation if we are not naturally not very effusive in our demeanor?
Oh my gosh.
So one of the things that I recommend to introverts is to show your energy level. Now, energy level does not necessarily mean what one might call extroverted personality. But energy is energy, right? People know when you're passionate about something. It has to do with your inflection, with your body language, with how excited you are about what you're talking about. And anybody, any personality type can handle that. And especially because you've got this little box of Zoom right now, when you do this and you have no other body language, right? It's going to be particularly important to let that beautiful smile show, John, right there, that, okay? Exactly. See, you've got energy there, and you've got passion, and that people want to know that. And you want to be leaning forward a little, and you want to be, really intentional about what you say and how you say it. You want to be mindful of your voice, how strong your voice is, and how deliberate you are in your speech. So these are a lot of different ways that you can do it, but I would say energy and passion cuts across personality types, backgrounds, age, everything. People want to know that, yes, you are interested in this and you have a real passion for what you do. So that's my tip around that. Vern, you want to share anything?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
The other thing I would add to that in being intentional in the words and your voice is think about being as confident. Think about your confidence in your ability, and try to have that come across in the way you present yourself.
Absolutely. And by the way, a subtle tip, this has nothing to do with personality, and I know KiKi had to leave here, so I know she'd back me up on this. We talked every once in a while in terms of the Zoom interviews about lighting, okay? I just want to make an extra note about that. A lot of people don't realize that when you are backlit, when you only have light behind you, that your face can kind of almost go like in the witness protection program. In fact, we have a couple of people, I think, without even realizing it, okay? It makes your face darker. And especially for those who just naturally have darker shades in their skin tone, all the more, right? That can happen. So it's very, very important that you are front lit. And you can have potentially some light like I do, but I have light streaming on my face right now as well, which is why you can see me. So please, please, please make sure, every single one of you, make sure you've got front lighting so that people can see you clearly. And on top of which, if you can go ahead and invest in a video camera, not just the webcam that's built into your computer, but an actual video cam. I use Logitech. It's not very expensive at all. You just hook it onto your computer, and just like that, you've got a crystal clear image. And those subtleties increase your level of professionalism. It helps people to connect with you and bond with you more, especially when you only have this little headshot. You got to make sure that you're making the most of everything. KiKi talks about what you have behind you, and it needs to be organized. And there's a lot of different nuances, but make sure that you're front lit at the very, very least. So.
Can I add one thing?
Yep.
And just before you go on that interview, practice, have someone else Zoom with somebody else, see how you're coming across, so they can give you a little feedback before you actually go out there, because there are things that we have to all remember, and there's a lot of little details.
It's the framing, all like a photograph, right? You're being framed right now. You can't use anything else other than this little box. So make sure.
So on Zoom, how much can we show? Should we just show like this where I show only my head, or should I show a bit of my torso?
A little bit of your torso. And what they say is, if you notice, KiKi gave me lots of advice, which is why I'm kind of where I am now. You want to make sure you have only a little bit of room. So not here, not here, right? But right around there. So you've just a little bit of space above your head. So you don't see the whole ceiling necessarily. And depending upon where you're sitting, you can certainly have a little bit of torso. My positioning doesn't allow me to have, farther down. So I just choose to go here. But make sure that whatever it does, it works for you, that you fill up the frame as much as you can. And if you can do a little head and shoulders, that's great, because body position is different. But yeah, just a little bit of room above your head.
And you're looking right at us too, which I love.
Yeah.
John, you need to elevate your laptop, because right now you're looking down.
Exactly. You want to be looking straight into the camera.
You want to be straight from the camera, which, like right now, my laptop's sitting on a box.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lift it up, play around with it.
Yeah.
Adjust the screen itself, pull it forward or back, up, down. Like, you just really want to play so that you're looking straight in to the camera. And the other trick too is, in terms of looking into the camera, is that if you are interviewing and you want the employer to have the perception that you're looking straight into their eyes, as opposed to down, because you know how it can happen. You know when it's you. So it's a little different here with a group situation, right? But normally, it's just you and one other person. And so what sometimes happens is your eyes are looking at the person, but they're off to your left or to your right. Okay. So in order to avoid that, what you can do is hit the minimize button on your Zoom. So if you all try that right now, just hit the minimize button in the upper right-hand corner of your Zoom. Now this works better on a PC. On your phone and Chrome, I'm not quite sure, but on a PC, this should work. Hit them. Now what'll happen is you'll see me, right? Because I'm speaking. You'll see me turn into a little box. Move that box right under your webcam. Okay. So it's going to look to me like you're looking at me because you're looking at the webcam. Okay. Now, it's actually a twofer, a piece of advice. Not only will that give the eyeball to eyeball thing, but also the cool part is that you can have your notes up right behind you because now you have access to your whole computer. You can pull up a Word doc, you can pull up the website, you can pull up whatever, and you can be reading your resume, whatever, and you can be reading and they'll never know. And you could even be typing and they'll never know because now, again, you're not going to see them as large as you would in the full screen. But to me, the benefits way outweigh it. I do it all the time when I'm working with clients. I just make them a little box and I type right behind them, and it's as if we're looking at each other. Okay, a little tip for you.
Yeah, great.
All right, so I'm looking at the time here. Hopefully this was a good session for you guys. We do look forward to seeing you next week. And again, I'm gonna do a little bit of a LinkedIn clinic from 10:15-ish to 10:45 next Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Yes.
That is great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you. You're going to be,
Shira.
You're welcome.
Shira, you're going to be putting your stuff on your particular website, not on CNM's Meetup website.
No,
Is that
yeah,
correct?
so, right. It's all going to be on, everything that I do is going to be on, it's on my website. And actually the meetup.com, the Higher Moment Mastermind is where all of this sort of lives. But then I also have a link on my website that you can reference. So yeah, it's all
Okay, good.
encapsulated.
I'll be looking for that. Thank you so
All right,
much.
All right. Have a
Thank you.
blessed day, everyone.
Thank you
Take care.
so much.
Thank you.
Happy
Thanks a
weekend.
lot. Good
See you.
session.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye-bye.